When the spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. That's an ancient African proverb, and right now, something is happening in Ivory Coast that proves just how powerful united webs can become. On May 21st, 2025, social media exploded with reports of chaos in Abidjan. Videos of protesters flooding the streets, claims of internet shutdowns, whispers of military movements, allegations of coup attempts that could change everything. But then, silence. Major news outlets stayed quiet. International media looked the other way. It's just like someone pressed the mute button on an entire nation's cry for freedom. I'm Asonga Luis, and this is the Strategic Lens. Today, we are going deep into what mainstream media won't. Today, we are uncovering the Ivory Coast crisis that has Western powers scrambling and African revolutionaries celebrating. Because what happened, or what they are claiming happened in Ivory Coast, isn't just about one country. It's about a domino that could topple an entire system of control that has been choking Africa for decades. Let me walk you through what we know and what we don't know. May 21st, 2025, reports start flooding social media. Thousands of Ivorians allegedly on the streets. Government buildings reportedly on fire. Internet connectivity issues across the country. Claims of up to 33 unalived between May 19 and May 20th. But here is where it gets interesting and suspicious. Why these reports spread like wildfire across X, Facebook and WhatsApp. Not a single major international news outlet confirmed these events. BBC silence, Reuters nothing, Al Jazeera radio silence. Now you might think maybe it didn't happen, but hold on, let me ask you something. When has Western media ever been shy about reporting African instability? When have they ever missed an opportunity to show Africa in chaos? Unless this wasn't the chaos they wanted you to see. Unless this was the kind of uprising that threatens their interests rather than serves them. Because according to reports that did circulate, something unprecedented was happening. The Ivorian people weren't just protesting, they were celebrating the possibility of military intervention. They were allegedly welcoming a potential coup. When was the last time you heard Africans celebrating a coup? When was the last time you heard people took to the streets to ask their military to overcome their government? When? To understand what's really happening in Ivory Coast, we need to understand the perfect storm that's been brewing. 3 explosive ingredients have been mixing up in this West African nation, and the combination is proving deadly for those who profit from the status quo. Ingredient number 1, a secret military deal that nobody asked for. While Ivorians were going about their daily lives, their government was reportedly negotiating with the United States to host American drone bases near the border with Burkina Faso and Mali. Now think about that. Surveillance drones that are pointed directly to the revolutionary governments that have been inspiring African youths across the continent. Ingredient number 2, President Alassane Ouattara, the man who once promised to step down after 2 terms, decided the constitution didn't apply to him. 3rd term, no problem, exclude opposition leaders. That was easy. Install your brother as the defense minister, why not keep it to the family? But then, the 3rd ingredient was the catalyst that sparked everything. An American general's inflammatory statement that united Africans from Lagos to London, from Accra to Atlanta. April 3rd, 2025, General Michael Langley, head of US Africa Command, walked into the Senate hearing and made a statement so provocative, so disrespectful to African sovereignty, that ignited a continental firestorm. What did he say, and why did it trigger such massive backlash that it might have contributed to the events we are investigating today? General Michael Langley looked at the United States senators and said these exact words about Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso. Captain Traoré in Burkina Faso, their gold reserves are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
The chairman, I see this and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traoré and Burkina Faso, their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
Now, wait. Captain Ibrahim Traoré isn't any African leader. Since taking power in 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has done what many thought was impossible in modern Africa. He nationalized his country's gold mines, taking them away from foreign operations. He built Burkina Faso's first gold refinery, meaning they processed their own wealth instead of shipping raw materials to Europe. He survived multiple assassination attempts. He formed a military alliance with Mali and Niger, and he told the world that Africa's resources belong to Africans. When General Langley accused Traoré of misusing gold reserves, he was attacking the very idea that Africans can't manage their own wealth without Western oversight. The response was swift and thunderous. Protesters erupted in cities across Africa. The diaspora mobilized from Detroit to London. Even General Langley's ancestral village in Senegal sent a video message calling his comments a betrayal of his African heritage. But here is where our story takes an unexpected turn. Just weeks after General Langley made these inflammatory comments, guess where Langley decided to visit? Ivory Coast. April 24th to 25th, 2025. Less than 3 weeks after insulting Captain Ibrahim Traoré, General Langley is sitting comfortably in Abidjan, meeting with President Ouattara and his defense minister. Now, what do you think they were discussing? Officially, regional security threats, but sources suggest they were finalizing details about that controversial drone deal. American surveillance aircrafts positioned to monitor Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Now, think about the optics here. You have an American general who just accused an African revolutionary of corruption, now causing with a president who have been accused of electoral manipulation, constitutional violations, and blatant nepotism. What message does this send to the Ivorian people? That America supports democracy, or that America supports anyone willing to defend America's interests, regardless of how they treat their own people? But the Ivorian people aren't stupid. They have been watching what is happening next door. They have seen Mali expelled France and regain their sovereignty. They have seen Burkina Faso building gold mines and refineries. They have seen Niger forming alliances based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. They are asking themselves, why are we still hosting military bases? Why are we still sending our cocoa abroad for processing? Why is our president still hanging around with people who insult our African brothers? Whether or not a full coup occurred on May 21st, and remember, this still remains unverified by major news outlets. What we do know is that Ivorian frustrations have been building for months. When opposition candidate Tidjane Thiam was barred from running using a 64-year-old law never used before, people noticed. When protest was consistently banned or met with police blockade, people remembered. When internet connectivity mysteriously suffered during political tensions, people connected the dots. The reports that did surface painted a picture unlike anything we have ever seen in recent African politics. Instead of people fleeing from military action, they were allegedly celebrating it. Instead of fearing the coup, they were reportedly welcoming it. Why? Because they have seen what's possible. They have watched their neighbors break free from new colonial control. They have seen that another way is possible. There is an African proverb: however far the stream flows, it never forgets its source. The Ivorian people haven't forgotten that they are Africans first, and they are watching as their continental family reclaims dignity, sovereignty, and control over their own resources. But here is what makes this potential uprising different from past coups in Africa. This isn't about replacing one puppet with another. It's about replacing an entire system of dependency with one of sovereignty. And that's exactly what Western powers are desperate to prevent. Now, I'm going to tell you why this story has been buried, why major media outlets have remained silent, and why Western governments are panicking behind closed doors. They don't want you to see this because it represents their worst nightmare: Africa united in resistance. Now think about a domino effect. Mali breaks free, then Burkina Faso, then Niger. Chad ends its military agreement with France. Senegal announces French bases must close. And now Cote d'Ivoire, supposedly France's most reliable West African ally, is showing signs of awakening. If Ivory Coast joins the alliance of Sahel states, if they kick out foreign military bases, if they start processing their own cocoa and controlling their own resources, what happens next? Ghana starts asking questions. Togo begins reconsidering those American drone-based proposals. The entire Western strategy in West Africa collapses. What happens when East African countries see that it's possible to survive without Western military presence? What happens when Southern African nations realize they don't need foreign corporations to process their minerals? Imagine an Africa where Ghanaian cocoa is processed in Ghana, where Congolese cobalt is powering African technology, where Nigerian oil is fueling African development, where South African gold backs currencies. That's why they don't want you to see what's happening in Ivory Coast, because every African uprising that succeeds make the next one more likely. Now, here is the truth they don't want you to understand. Whether or not there was a military coup on May 21st, there have definitely been a mental coup across Africa. Young Africans are no longer accepting that their resources must enrich foreign corporations. They are no longer believing that their leaders must bow to foreign generals. They are no longer accepting that their future must be determined by people who have never walked in their shoes. The real coup isn't happening in presidential palaces. It's happening in the minds of African people across the world. From the universities of Accra to the markets in Lagos, from the diasporan communities in London to the tech hubs in Nairobi, Africans are staging a coup against mental colonization. Whether you're watching this from Abidjan or from Atlanta, from Dakar or Detroit, you are part of this moment. The question isn't whether change is coming to Africa. Change is already here. The question is, are you going to be part of the solution or part of the problem? So here is what I want you to do. Share this video, and more importantly, share this perspective. Because every time an African person anywhere in the world understands that our resources, our leadership, and our future don't have to be dictated by foreign powers, the movement grows even stronger. The coup they don't want you to see isn't just happening in Ivory Coast. It is happening everywhere. It's happening wherever Africans are waking up to their own power. And once we are fully awake, there is no force on earth that will put us back to sleep. This is the strategic lens. The revolution won't be televised, but it will be understood. Until my next video, bye.